Hello, friends, and welcome back to Freakish Fridays. Tattoo Biker here with you. And tonight I've got something special in store for you. I've received 4 compelling emails with stories from our viewers about their incredible encounters with the legendary Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch. These stories are credible, as well as fascinating, so join me, and we'll dive into the mysterious world of cryptids together. Now grab your hiking boots and let's ride. Number 1. Hey Tattooed, I wanted to write to you and share some of the many encounters I've had with Sasquatch in my lifetime. I'm Native American. My family is of the Ute tribe, and I was born on a reservation in Colorado. Sasquatch are known and accepted as a part of nature by my people. The first time happened when I was 10, back in 1980. I was in Manitou Springs, looking down a canyon, and I saw a mother Bigfoot looking up at me. I was tossing rocks off the ledge, and she was trying to get her 2-foot-tall child up and into one of the caves for protection. The second time was about 6 years later, at the base of Mount Manitou, by the creek next to the railway tracks. My 2 friends and I were camping, and after we hit the sack and let our fire die down, something in the middle of the night stirred it back to life. Our tent was open, and I could see a pair of furry legs standing, facing the fire. It was between us and the fire pit. I quietly woke my friends, and Sean squeaked a bit, and it turned to face the tent. I must have passed out from shock because it was instantly dawn, and my 2 friends were asleep. We left there in a hurry, and Sean moved to Harlem the next day, and my other friend Greg never wanted to go back out into those woods again. My next several sightings took place around Springfield, Oregon area. This one was only a half-mile outside Springfield, heading east towards Marcola. As I look on Google Maps, it was at 89029 Marcola Road, Springfield. The barbed wire fence is gone now, and it was just standing by the telephone pole, waiting for me to pass in my van. After it passed behind my van, I slowed down and looked to my left, and I see this massive Sasquatch, easily 12 feet tall. It walked across the road in just 2 strides and stepped over a barbed wire fence that was just at its knee height but waist high to me, and I'm 6'1". One of the best ones was a mile south, off the North Umpta Highway on NF 350 between Trap Creek and Bear Creek. I was teaching some teens about tracking, the difference of tree breakage between weather and Sasquatch, what a termite-ridden log looks like when a bear goes at it compared to a primate, showing them the natural tree falls that people call Bigfoot homes. As I was talking about the log, we heard a sound behind. It sounded like a whooping sound, like something maybe was looking at us and suddenly questioned itself. We all 4 turned to see a 3-foot-tall, adolescent Sasquatch standing in some bushes. As soon as we turned, it realized we could see it, and it ducked down just to where it was looking over some leaves. One of the guys yelled, "Get it!" It dropped even lower and started whooping really loud. All of a sudden, we heard some footsteps running behind us from the other side of the hill, and it sounded like a T-Rex from Jurassic Park. I forced the group to run for my Bronco because I didn't want to have to explain to the police that a teen got smashed up by a Bigfoot. I have had more, but my time is short. My last one for the day. It was weird, but completely true. I was on my way down Blue School Mountain Road. I think that's where it was. It's been 21 years ago. Anyways, I was heading down the road, and I stopped at an opening in the trees because I had to take a leak. I stood on a small cliff, about 15 feet high, overlooking a clearing that's about a square mile. Well, I started, and I heard this weird sound beneath me. I looked down, and only 8 feet below me is a Sasquatch with an annoyed look on its face. Then we both realized at the same time what we were looking at. It pressed up against a cliff, trying to hide, I moved to the side to get a better look, and it shifted to the other side. It wasn't that old of a Sasquatch, probably just a teenager. It was definitely scared of me. I had to get some film of it, and I started for my Bronco. And I think that there were two of them, because as I went to the Bronco, I saw a slimmer one run towards the slope away from the clearing, and it was to my left. But I hear a loud whooping where the other one was. That is where I was shaken to my core. Just after the whooping started, there was something coming down the mountainside right at me, and it sounded like King Kong crashing through the trees. I got out of there, and I couldn't sleep for days. Thanks for letting me share. Be safe. Remember some of my advice. Don't scream and point. Do not try to get near their kids. Don't try to feed it directly or hug it. Don't throw rocks at it. Don't yell at it. And most of all, don't pee on it. Thanks for reading. Signed, Irway. Number 2. Dear TB, I live in the Colorado Rockies at 8,600 plus feet in elevation. It's beautiful country, and I'm an avid outdoorsman. Horseback riding, fishing, hunting, and just driving any back road I can find whenever I can. This particular morning, I drove to a shooting area in the National Forest about 5 miles from my home. It was a great morning for shooting. The sun was shining and not a cloud in the sky. Just a light breeze coming down off of a continental divide. After about an hour and a half of practicing, the ammo was all gone. As I was gathering my empty brass and shot up targets, I had the feeling of eyes on me. I scanned the meadow and tree line all around as I continued collecting range trash. I couldn't see anything to speak of, but my attention kept coming back to some deep shadows and a cluster of big old spruce trees about 100 yards away. I finished loading the trash on the back of my truck and turned to face the cluster of spruces. I said out loud, "I can feel you watching me. I'm just passing through and I'll leave you be." I turned to open the door of my truck, and that's when I heard a very distinct, throat-toned whistle coming from the shadows of the spruce. I got in my truck with a quick wave towards the direction the whistle came from. I started the engine and drove off towards home, down the rutted four-wheel drive trail. I glanced in my rearview mirror just in time to see a very large, upright creature covered in dark brown hair stepping out of the spruces and heading west diagonally across the meadow. I slammed on the brakes and spun around in my seat to try and catch sight of it before it disappeared into the timber. In just a matter of seconds, it was gone. I couldn't believe it. I had just seen an actual Sasquatch. I'd seen some questionable tracks a few decades ago. I've heard some questionable noises before and had feelings of being watched before, but that day it actually happened. I actually saw one with my own 2 eyes in broad daylight. I still don't know quite what to say, but thanks for providing a place to share this experience. Signed, Danny. Number 3. Hello, Tattooed Biker. I'm an American veteran who retired after 23 years of active military service. Back in the 1980s and early 90s, I was a non-commissioned officer stationed in upstate New York. Fort Drum, former Griffiths Air Force Base. There was a large nuclear storage area. This was right next to hundreds of acres of heavily wooded area. I used to work in the tower of the storage area, where I controlled all the alarms and cameras. Being a nuclear storage area, there are a ton of alarms in the ground that pick up someone or something walking on the fences, picking up any vibrations. There are cameras attached to each alarm. Cameras covered every inch of the area. The first time I saw a Sasquatch, I nearly ruined my pants. I was being trained as a tower operator when we received an alarm from the back side of the facility fence line. The corresponding camera came up, and there was a hand on the fence, and the Sasquatch looking straight up at the camera. The sergeant that was training me looked at the camera and, with no excitement at all, just reset the alarm and went back to what he was doing. I asked him what that was and if we were going to do anything about it. He looked at me dead seriously and said, "I'm pretty sure that I don't need to tell you what it is, and no, we're not going to do anything about it." I was completely blown away. I came to find out that this happens all the time, and no one ever does anything. The first day I was certified as a tower operator and working by myself, I received the same alarm. It was the exact same scenario, but I did dispatch security to the area. They arrived and couldn't find anything. Later that evening, I received an alarm at one of the doors inside the storage area, and there it was, staring up at the camera. That means that somehow it got through the ground alarms and the fence alarms without setting anything off. It was banging on a door of the bunker housing nuclear weapons. Again, I dispatched security, and they found nothing. Each night, we have a log that we write explaining all the events of the evening. We turn it in to our command. I wrote exactly what happened and turned it in at the end of the shift. I wasn't home for an hour when my phone rang. It was my commander telling me that I needed to come back in. I was made to change my report, deleting any references to alarms and Sasquatches. Apparently, they know about these things and don't do anything about it. I've also seen them just appear out of nowhere. They also have some ability to make you feel sick, and I think it has to do with their young ones. I think that the young ones might not have mastered some of their abilities, letting themselves be seen. This is all true. These creatures are real and have abilities beyond our understanding. The government knows about them, without a doubt, and still denies their existence. They are so confident in their deception of the American people that they never even made me sign an NDA. Thanks for reading. Signed, Aaron. Number 4. Hey biker, I have a Bigfoot story. Back in 1979, while visiting my grandparents in Carmichael's Township, Pennsylvania for the weekend, one of my uncles is having a house built on a piece of land about a quarter mile down the road from my grandparents' house. My uncle was over at my other uncle's house a few miles away. My father wanted to go see his property in construction progress, so we walked down the road to see it for ourselves. A workman's van parked in the front of the property, where he kept all his tools and some other equipment. His dog, a big German shepherd that loved to bark and make his presence known, was chained to his van as a deterrent to anyone that might try and steal his tools. As we approached my uncle's property, we noticed that his dog wasn't barking or growling. His dog had crawled beneath the van and was whining like it was scared. I remembered my father, and I thought this is very odd, but decided to walk around back to where the new house was being built. About 40 or 50 feet beyond the work bin where his work van was parked was a hill that was dug out for the foundation for the new house. There's also a large tree there, and that is where we saw it. My father saw it first and told me to stop. It was large, it was wide, and it was solid black. The creature must have heard us and was leaning against a tree, just staring at us. We temporarily froze. It slowly moved so it was partially behind the tree, and its head was still visible from the other side, kind of like he was playing peekaboo with us. I remember my father leaning to the side to get a better view, when suddenly this creature stepped out from behind the tree into full view. That was the point when my father threw me over his shoulder and did a full-on sprint back to my grandparents' house. It was a full quarter mile away. It didn't appear to be aggressive, but I guess my father didn't want to take any chances. We got to their house, and my father yelled for everyone to get in the back room and stay put. He called his other brother that lived on the other side of town and told him to bring over his shotguns. Both of his brothers showed up, and they all went back down the road to investigate. Hence the saying, there's nothing more dangerous than a scared human being. They never did find anything, not even the dog, who had crawled back up underneath the van. My uncles gave me and my dad a bunch of grief over this whole story, and said that we had just seen a black bear. Well, I'll tell you, that was no black bear. Being that this event happened so long ago, I can't accurately say how tall it was. It was 40 to 50 feet away again, but it was larger than any person that I've ever seen. Maybe 7 or even 8 feet tall. What really stuck with me over these years was just how wide the thing was. It was massive. Probably twice the width of a very large man. It is pretty much spot on with what Bigfoot looks like in the Patterson-Gimlin film. A few days later, one of my uncles called my father when he went back to work a few days later. He said one of his co-workers actually approached him and said, "You're not going to believe what I think I saw over the weekend while I was out fishing." Apparently, there were numerous sightings over the weekend, even from several miles away, and the local news people even wrote an article about the whole event. Thanks for reading. Signed, James. And there it is. All the fascinating Bigfoot encounter stories I have tonight. I hope you enjoyed these just as much as I did. If you have any unexplained encounters or stories of your own, send them to me, sparing no detail, to the email address in the description, and they might just make it into a future video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more unexplained content. So until next time, stay curious, stay vigilant, stay safe, and I'll be seeing you on down the road a ways. Biker, out.